Hey, have you heard about Podcast On? This is a global podcast charity event where hosts dedicate one episode to a nonprofit they care about and release it together the same week. No fundraising, no fees, just powerful storytelling for good. Podcast On 2026 runs March 14th to March 20th. Join thousands of podcasters worldwide and use your voice for impact. It's free, it's simple, and it starts at podcasthon.org.
The Marketing Podcast Network is a proud partner of Podcast On.
You enjoy podcasts. We know because you're listening to one. Hi, I'm Jason Falls, the executive producer of the Marketing Podcast Network. We love podcasts too, so much so that in addition to providing you with a great episode you're listening to, we also help businesses, brands, and even individuals produce their podcasts. MPN Studios offers podcast consulting and production services to help you get you or your business its very own podcast. We've helped dozens of smart people, advertising agencies, and brands develop podcasts. All you do is record your content or interview. We take that and deliver a professionally produced audio or video episode, complete with show notes, transcriptions, and even promotional clips to use on social media. And our monthly subscription prices are hard to beat. If you or your company are jonesing to have your own podcast to establish thought leadership, drive business leads, or just have fun talking about your business or topic of choice, we'd love to help. Learn more at marketingpodcasts.net/studio. That's marketingpodcasts.net/studio.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience and their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's LIBSYN, ads.com today.
Welcome to Your Radiant Spirit, a space for the conversations and colors that help you see yourself more clearly. I'm Heather Eck, an intuitive artist and guide, and I believe your soul speaks in the ways the mind can't always put into words, through color, energy, and the stories your body holds. This show is where we explore those messages. Through personal stories, deep conversations, and creative insight, we'll uncover what's been hidden, release what no longer serves, and begin to imagine what's possible when you live in full alignment with who you're meant to be. What you hear here is more than inspiration, it's an opening, a chance to feel the shift that could change everything. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and let's step into today's conversation. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so happy to see your smiling face again, and I'm so happy that you said yes to being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, I appreciate it. So you and I met, I want to say like last year sometime, was it? Or was it the year before?
I know I remember it very clearly.
So we have a mutual friend, Cassandra, who we call Poodle. I call her Poodle. And she invited me over to her house to do spirit portraits for a group of her girlfriends. And you were there.
Yes.
Can you take us back to that moment?
Yes. So Cassandra invited me to a girls' night, and then she said, there is a spirit portrait artist coming, and she's like, you will love her. And I didn't ask any questions because I just trusted her. I'm like, yeah, whatever. If you think this is great, let's do it. And I'm open to experiences in general. So I came in with absolutely no expectation, not knowing what the day would entail and who I would be meeting. I met Heather that day. The process was, she explained that she was a spirit portrait artist, and each of us, I think we were about 6 or 7 women in the room, each of us went into a separate room with Heather, and she saw colors around us, and she started painting a portrait on a piece of paper. And after she's done drawing, she explained what that meant. And there are many things that she said, but one thing that she specifically said was, you have a story and you need to tell more people that story so they feel hopeful in their own life. And She drew my portrait as a blue, and like she said, I was spiritual and led by faith and all of that, which is all of them were true. But when she said the words story and people needs to find hope, that was just the moment I needed, because I did have a story and I was meaning to write the story, but not now. I was hoping to write the story when I was 60 or 70 years old, when I'm done with my life. But that day, when you said that to me specifically and used those exact words, I felt like you saw through me, like you saw my soul. You're not just seeing me, you saw everything that happened to me, my entire story. And that was the catalyst for me to start writing the book.
Oh, I could cry listening to that. I could cry. I have chills remembering that moment because I do remember, I don't remember specifically what your portrait looks like, but I remembered the blue and I remembered the throat. And I could feel that you were sitting in your throat chakra. Like for me, what I see is where somebody is holding on to pain or something that's keeping you kind of stuck there. And I remember that was for you, it was your throat. And so I felt like your spirit was longing to speak. I felt like there was something that needed to be shared. What shifted for you in that session that made you go, okay, I'm I'm not going to wait until 60 or 70. I'm going to start to do this now. Was it instantaneous or did you walk away and go, was it a nudge?
No, it was instantaneous. It was like always I had the idea of writing the book when I was 60, 70 years old, because it was a memoir. So I was thinking in the sense that my life isn't over yet. So there may be so many accomplishments that may be coming in the future. So I wanted to write all of it together. That was the idea. But when you use the word hope, that
Mm.
other people will gain hope from your story, that's all I needed. That told me that this was not about me. This was about me giving something back, that hope to other people who may be in the similar situation right now, who may have suffered previously like me and haven't found the hope that I found. And for various reasons, I felt like, there's no need to wait. Write it. And even if it helps one person to find that hope, to find light, to understand that, small acts of kindness can change somebody's life, it's important. And why am I waiting? Why am I going to wait 30 more years to share that story? So if I wrote it now and publish it now, there may be more lives I can touch in the next 30 years than me waiting till 60, 70. So that's the exact word that you used, is like people needs to hear your story and get hope from your story. So you need to voice it. That's how you said it. And that just triggered the sequence of it. So I started writing it right away, actually. So I wrote on and off about my story, but I wrote it in form of journals, because a huge part of my healing was therapy. Even though I was in a safe home, safe environment now, there were triggers that would bring back all the emotions back in. And there were periods I would suffer severe anxiety, or as if I have like a rock on my chest.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't understand why. I'm like, I have a great husband, I have two children, I'm in a safe home, a great career, but something, that is very, very not related to my past would trigger some emotions and I wouldn't understand. So when I went to therapy, they asked me to write, and then we would connect it, like, this is why this has happened, because you suffered through this previously. So I wrote it. So there is written chapters all over, but never in a format of a book. So immediately after I met you, I started writing, outlining what I wanted it to be, how I wanted it. And then from then on, it took 8 months for me to finish writing, going through 4 drafts, editing, and publishing. And the book was published on May 12th.
Oh my gosh. All right. So it was like just 8 months, less than a year.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think, well, I was going to say, I am so glad that your therapists and that team told you to write because that's such a therapeutic, healing exercise to do art to find pathways to healing.
My hobby is always to write. That's my outlet. I write about different things, but till that point in therapy, I wasn't connecting the pain with the past suffering.
Okay.
My son was diagnosed with a heart condition. Throughout the process, I was very strong. We went through everything. We went through surgery, and he had 6 weeks of recovery period. I was a pillar for all of it. I was very strong. After all of that happened, I crashed. There were multiple instances like that in my life where I would lead through something very difficult that we were going through. And after everything has passed, I would crash. And I would crash to a point where I would barely sleep. I would wake up like 3, 4 hours, and then I would wake up with anxiety and, pit in the stomach. So I wasn't connecting. I was like, he's fine now. We went through everything. The doctor said he's doing really great. Why am I feeling this now? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't understanding. And then the therapist said, it is the past of, and you are afraid that whatever you have right now, the safety, the safe space, the happiness, you're afraid that it will be taken away. And that is what
Oh,
is triggering it and pushing you back all the way to the pain. And that's when the writing helped, and me analyzing my emotions helped, and getting to the bottom of things helped. And sometimes I would get stuck and not understand what it is, and then in the next therapy session we would sit down and go through what I wrote, and they would help me break it down.
mm-hmm.
It always came to the past.
Okay. So that past was still very present with you.
It did sit with me all the time, but writing the book and publishing it healed me more than the past 20 years of therapy has healed me. There is something very profound in, taking your story and that story helping others in their life.
Yeah.
I always tell people that whatever you go through, right? I went through infertility, but I don't see that I went through it as a whole circle until I can help someone going through the same struggle.
Mm.
Like, I went through infertility, I had my children, but the closure only came when I started helping other women going through infertility, speaking through them, holding through their hand, like telling them, yes, I know how you feel, because I went through infertility. So I was the person that can connect with them, whatever emotions they're going through. And same with somebody goes through grief. And a person that went through grief, I feel like can be the best person, can walk you through if they
Mm-hmm.
came through the other side. So no cycle of pain is complete without us in the end being able to hold somebody else's hand going through the same pain. And this book did that for me.
Oh, wow.
And there are many women that or mostly women, or women and children or teenagers reached out to me and said, there are many parts of this book I felt connected. I felt like I was reading my own story.
Mm.
In the book there was part of physical abuse, there's part of sexual abuse, there is abandonment, there's hunger, right? Even though the reader doesn't have feel everything, they would feel some part of it and feel connected to it. And I have gotten those comments again and again. And at the end of the book I also finished it in a way that how I overcame all of these feelings, right? How I was able to forgive, how I was able to hold on to my faith. So when, or being grateful, always changing my mindset to be grateful for whatever I have. So, the past is not shadowing me. There are people that reach out to me saying that those 3 chapters in the end resonated with them very much. So when I hear that, it's just very, very healing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Amazing.
stories have this power, right? Like, and I always say, pain is pain. And I recently went to Thailand. I don't know if you see all my crazy elephant pictures on
Yeah,
my.
yeah.
So I recently went to Thailand, and we were able to spend time with tribal women, and their families generationally, the men takes care of elephants, and the women takes care of children at home, and but in their free time they use their hands to make elephants with stone, wood carvings, and things like that, and sell them, right? So when I met them and heard some of their stories, the thing I was going through this hard time in the US, and some of them were going through that tribal village in Thailand as form of domestic abuse. But the pain is same.
The pain's the same. Yeah.
I spoke to them about breaking the cycle. How can they break the cycle? And I spoke to them about finding independence first, having their own thing. And I spoke to them about what they go through. Their daughters don't have to go through the same thing. Even if you cannot come out of the cycle, make sure your daughter comes out of it. Why I wanted to say that story was pain connects us. And if we are able to see each other's pain and heal each other, be sensitive to each other's pain, and also at the same time be kind for no reason. You will see in my book, there are many strangers that came along and was kind, and that changed the trajectory of my story.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just did what they can do, right? They just did. There was this family, my friend's family, that were living in a motel themselves. It was not
Mm.
apartment, not a big house or anything. But when I needed a place to stay after the physical abuse episode, they just took me in with no questions. And in their home was the first time I saw the hope of me going to college.
Oh, wow.
And I went to college, and I am who I am because of my education. And they didn't calculate. They were like, oh, we are living in a 2-room motel. How is this another additional person going to come stay with us? They didn't think about any of that, right? So if we can be kind in a very uncalculated way, whenever need comes right in front of our eyes, take care of it to the best of your ability. You don't have to stretch yourself thin, but just to the best of your ability, I think that can just change the world. And my story is a proof of that.
I think that everything that you've just said is so powerful. And you made me think about how you feel like your healing doesn't find closure until you're able to help somebody else who's going through the same thing. And that's something my spiritual teacher talks a lot about, that you go through experiences because you're meant to help other people through them. And then she
Hmm.
always gives us this visual of reaching your hand back and pulling
Hmm.
somebody up with you to say, you're going to be okay. I'm here with you. Hold my hand. I've got
Hmm.
you through this. And that was
Hmm.
one of the things I think that's so powerful about your story, and that you gave yourself permission to be so raw and vulnerable and open, because that's the only way that somebody's going to connect with it and say, I see myself there. I see
Hmm.
myself in you. And if you can heal and find hope and courage, then I feel like that's possible for me too.
Absolutely. That was the goal. You said it very well, that somebody feel positive in their life because I found the light at the end of my story.
Yeah. And not
And
even the end of your story either, right? Like your
yeah,
story's still going on.
still going on. End of that story. You said the word raw, and a lot of reviews, even if you see it in Amazon, a lot of people use that word raw when giving a review on the book. I was able to keep it raw because I am very secure as a person today, as a wife in a relationship, and even just as a person. And I wasn't afraid that what would people think. I have this very secure net of people around me, the friends and family that know me regardless.
Mhm.
The story, even if it's out there, is not going to change anything for them. They already know me, right? When you have that secure net, I feel like you don't stop yourself. You write to your full potential, you live to your full potential, and you don't become your own hurdle.
I think there's so much wisdom in that, in what you just said. Like when you feel safe in your relationships with the people who already know you because you've already been comfortable enough to share that story with them, that enabled you to speak the fullest expression of your experience. That
Yeah.
enabled you to just say, here is what happened. I'm not going to censor it. I'm not going to
Mhm,
hide from it. I'm going to
mhm.
share it, all of
Yeah,
it, even the ugly parts, but I'm going to
yeah.
share the good parts too. Were there parts of your book that you felt were harder to write for you, or were they harder to go back and really look at it with honest eyes?
Absolutely. One particular part was the physical abuse episode. When I wrote about that, I was reliving it. I was going back to that evening. I was going back to that sequence of events. And when I wrote it, I was seeing that 15-year-old little girl in the corner of the room being hit again and again and again with the full power of the abuser. That night, I closed the laptop and we went out in the car, my husband and I and the kids. When we got back to the house, me and my husband were in the car, and I started crying because the pain was still there. The physical pain wasn't, but the emotional pain, the anger of someone doing that to you, to a vulnerable person. Unfortunately, the person that did it was also 15-year-old.
Mm.
So it's not an adult, but he was he was 6 foot, and I'm this tiny person, barely 5 foot, and he was a man, and there's more muscle power and strength, and the fact that I couldn't do anything, I couldn't fight back that day, still was very hard, and I was telling my husband everything. He knew that night happened, but he didn't know the details. But me sitting down and writing poured in all the details. There's a funny thing that happened that day. So that day, I went and bought Dove products. Okay. Like a Dove cream, deodorant, and shampoo and conditioner, like all Dove products. That was a huge luxury for me that I did that. I went to a pharmacy and bought all of this. And then I took a shower, and, I have the smell of Dove on me. And then started eating my dinner at around 9 p.m. And then he came in and hit me, and all of that happened. Until today, I cannot use Dove products.
Oh, wow.
I cannot,
Because the
get
scent is
close.
such a
Yeah,
memory, right?
yeah, the scent is such a memory, and it takes me back to that vulnerable, fearful night. So I can't use it. So it's just the small things, but when you write it, right, all of that will come in a bow. It was not like a memory here and there. It was the sequence of the whole evening. Him coming in and with his oily smell from working from White Castle and storming in, the sound of the door that was open, everything, right? It was literally living it again in your mind. And that was very difficult for me. And there were other parts that were difficult, but this was the most difficult part to live through again. But I also feel like after writing it and reading through it so many times and sharing it out there, more healing happened, even
Yeah.
to that aspect of the story.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. It's called Unbroken.
It's
And
Unbroken, a journey through from silence through strength.
amazing. And you write, forgiveness is not about pretending the pain didn't exist.
Yes.
Tell us
Yes.
about what forgiveness looks like for you today.
So my English teacher from India read the book and reached out to me. And he said, I do not understand how you write so freely and in truth about your parents, and you know how you felt about your parents when they are still at large,
Still in
still
your life.
living, and a huge part of your life. And I said, if I didn't write it honestly, if I didn't take the reader through it, and if I said, oh, I understood why they gave me up for adoption when I was 14, that's all going to be a lie. It has to, I want to take the reader through all the emotions, what I felt, the resentment. Why would you give your only child away? Why would you send to the people that you barely know, just thinking that they will take care of your child?
Mhm.
Can't do that. So there is all these questions, that emotions, the resentment that I went through. Yes, I resented. I didn't like the adoptive parents or the sponsoring parents or the adoptive sibling, or the guardian, who I call in the book, who all of these antagonists in my story. But the most resentment I had was on in my with my parents.
Mhm.
And the second person that I resented most was myself.
Mm.
And it was extremely hard. And there were, a word that came from my mom on a casual phone call that would trigger everything. That would be like,
Mm.
you can't say that, you cannot say that, she gave me up, how can she say that? So, right. And I was going in this circle of resentment and anger, and not being able to love them or myself the way I wanted to. And what I realized was it was killing me, right? But I couldn't find a way out. They did the best they could, let them go. And then I would feel that. But then there is another circumstance that would arise, and I would be like, nope, they did this to me. Right?
Mhm.
So I was going through that circle again and again. And when I truly came to faith and truly got saved by Jesus and started following in my journey with Christianity and knowing more about Jesus, I brought back the forgiveness in the right context in my life. The story about, Jesus on the cross and
Mhm.
saying the prayer that forgive them, Lord, because they don't know what they're doing, right?
Mhm.
I wasn't crucified. I wasn't bled to death. I wasn't ashamed. Yes, what was done to me was wrong, but he was humiliated and he was still able to do that. And if I want to be a follower of Jesus, if I want to call myself that I was saved by Jesus and want to be in that journey, I have to try and forgive, right? So the forgiveness started, and it was very easy for me to forgive the people that were far away, the adoptive parents, like they did the best, whatever their circumstances, all of that. And then I was able to forgive my parents, and they didn't know that whoever they were sending me to, or people that didn't have their heart in the right place. So they just didn't know, and they didn't have the luxury or the financial support to just call it off and be like,
Yeah.
okay, come back and do what? Come back, and they were already in a huge debt to send me. And then I go back, And what are the three of us going to do? What is that future going to look like? Right? So they were afraid. And then there's also this part of spiritual, like I went through that because there was a purpose. God had a purpose for me, right? Now I'm able to feel other people's pain.
Mm.
I'm able to be empathetic, and I'm able to walk with somebody else going through the pain and just be that person that I needed when I was 14 years old, when I was going through that. I can be that person to somebody else because I went through all of these things. That is the purpose of my life.
Yeah. And I think that there's something really powerful about being able to speak truth about your lived experience. That was your experience, and what you observed and what you felt and what you shared is true for you. And so for your parents, I'm sure that there's truth on their side too. Like you said, they had put themselves into debt to send you into this situation. And I'm sure that wasn't easy for them. And they're also going through this life for the very first time, trying to figure things out. And I always think about that when people have conflict with family, because I think we're all just doing this for the first time, trying to trying to make decisions. We have no idea how we're
Yeah.
always impacting people. And so what is your relationship with your mom and dad like now, if it's okay to ask?
Yeah, I mean, the relationship was never gone. It was still there. I was their only child. Even though they sent me away, I am still their child.
Right.
And, I got married back home with my parents. I visit them every year. I take care of my parents. They're a huge part of my life. But that necessarily didn't mean I was not angry with them,
Hmm.
right? And, something amazing also happened with the book. My mom knew all of this, right? My mom knew all of it, but she read the book and she was not able to speak for the next 2, 3 days. She completely broke down. And that was the healing for her. Like she understood the full extent of decision after reading the book, after seeing everything in front of her eyes of everything I went through. And something she said after reading the book, I think brought both of us closer. And she said, I never understood that my actions caused this much pain to my child. And if I had the opportunity, if I God give me another opportunity to go back, I wouldn't do it again, because the one person that is so precious to me, I I became the reason for her pain. And I didn't know that till now. She didn't comprehend that till she
Hmm.
read the book. And she read the book, and when we both had a very open and honest conversation, and it was heart to heart. And then I told her why I wrote the book. I told her, Mom, it wasn't to blame anybody. It wasn't to blame. In the book you will see that I didn't blame you. I wrote it in a way that you didn't know, right? You did the
Hmm.
best you
Exactly.
could. But at the same time, those actions still affected me and how I came through it. The reason I wrote the book is the other people that are going through, difficult times can find hope and light. And it was no intention to even blame you or the adopted parents or the sponsoring parents, none of it. And she understood that, and she's very proud of the book today. I feel like she also understood the full extent of the pain and what I went through after reading the book, which I may not have been able to express very well because
Hmm.
it was always shadowed by anger, right? Whenever those topics came, the conversation never went in a fruitful direction. It would always go in a blaming way that, you did this, or there was underlying blaming on whatever I said on the surface. But her reading the book in her own time, in her, own space, and understanding it helped her to completely understand what I went through.
I think that is like hearing you say that to me makes it feel like you gave her a tremendous gift of being able to see your life from your perspective and the gift of that conversation that can repair decades of pain and decades of shame and anger. And I'm sure that was not an easy time period for you guys to talk about and to live through and to just hold space for each other and what each of you were going through. But I think that that is such an unexpected gift for healing for both of you to
Yeah.
be able to have that conversation. Because can you imagine that you held on to that story until you were 60 or 70? Would your mom
And she's
have been
not here.
around? Right.
And she's not here to read through it or to understand it. So yeah, and I have to tell you, Heather, my parents never got the visa to come visit us. Even I was pregnant, or even today, they don't have a visa. And I'm like their only child, and they're completely retired, and they want to come and stay with me, spend time with grandchildren, but that never was able to happen. And when I prayed, right, and I would say, God, I know there is a reason you were stopping this from happening. And in my heart, I was like, what if they came here and, I had this resentment or anger in my heart, and, I won't be able to take care of them. So maybe God thought it was best for us to not, go through that. And I always had that in the back of my mind. And I was never able to completely pray for that, for God to change that. I was
Mm,
like, yeah, we tried 7 times, but they never got the visa. But I was never like on my knees and asking God, be like, please give them the visa. I want them to come here. Please. I've never asked that. I've always
wow.
said, if you didn't want it to happen, you had a reason, so it didn't happen. So
Right.
you're still protecting me. But after this conversation, I felt like some part of that also healed.
Yeah.
Feel like maybe that was the hurdle that was stopping them from getting the visa. Now that is, moved, and we both passed that in her heart and in my heart. And it was important for me to happen on both ends, not just my end. And it
Right.
also happened on her end to completely understand, what happened. So it happened, and now I feel a little bit hopeful that it may happen, sometime in the future. I feel that way. You
Yep.
you know that. So I
I
feel
do.
that way. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that story too. You and your mom made space, right? You
Yeah.
have made space for that healing to come in. And so when you said 7 times, it triggered for me in the Bible, the number 7 is a number of completion. It's a
Yes.
number of wrapping things up. And so I hope, and we'll say a prayer for you that maybe the 8th time is the charm. Maybe you've
Maybe.
made room for that. What a
Yeah.
gift that would be to you and your family to have them be able to come and visit. I feel like your story is so powerful and you speak so beautifully about it. And I can see how much lighter your energy is for having been able to clear that. I see more stories for you. I feel like there's more to come. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think there's more that you are able to convey and to share that is going to be of so much help to people. I hope you're continuing to write. I think there's a book
Yes.
percolating in there.
Yep. I'm already writing it. It's the story about my journey to faith and infertility. Both of them happened in tandem. So I want the book to talk about in depth about faith and how it transformed me. But at the same time, I also want to talk about infertility for many women that is going through that hardship right now, because there are many nuances, many feelings that only a fellow infertility woman will understand. So I want the book to be able to speak to the women that is going through that and help them feel understood.
Amazing. And I'm sure you know this as well. There are so many stories of infertility in the Bible as well.
Y- they are. Yeah,
Mm.
that story that brought hope to me was, we had a prayer warrior, and she was praying over me, and she said, I feel that God is going to bless you like he did with Sarah, because at that point, all the doctors said we had 0% of
Oh.
ever having children. Now I have twin boys. So, and it's like, right, Sarah was also feeling that, my age, what are you saying, God? Like, how can I have children? And I
Right.
felt the same way, even though I was only, what, 23, 24. I was like, God, what are you saying? Like, all these people are saying I'm going to have children, but what are you saying? But the science is saying otherwise. It is definitely faith that helped me survive that journey, but faith all not only just helped me with that part, it healed me from the past as well. So I definitely want the second book about infertility and faith.
Amazing. Amazing. Beautiful, beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I'm so excited to share your story with the listeners. Tell us where they can find you and your book.
Amazon still has Unbroken, and you have to type in the full name, Unbroken, A Journey from Silence to Strength, and that's when you'll be able to find it. I have a website, Sushmita but I am very active on Instagram. So
Mhm.
my Instagram handle is at Sushmita on the shelf.
Wonderful. I'll share all that information in the show notes and I'll link directly to the book so that our listeners can grab it. 10 out of 10 recommend. I'm so happy that God crossed our paths so we could have a
Yes.
conversation. I think I can give you information. So many people can share things, but you are the one who said, I'm going to do it. And you took those steps and you made it happen. And it literally like warms my heart and makes me so happy that you actually did. So thank you so much for sharing, for your courage and for your wisdom. Can't wait to read your second book. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me today on Your Radiant Spirit. Every conversation here is an invitation to go beyond the surface, to listen to what your soul has been whispering, and to step into the life you've been longing for. If you're ready to go deeper, to work in a way that's personal, creative, and profoundly transformative, you'll find ways to connect with me in the show notes. Whether it's through art, a guided session, or a fully immersive journey, you'll discover a space where your truth is seen and your next chapter begins. If this episode spoke to you, it would mean the world if you shared it with a friend, left a review, or subscribed so more people can discover the conversations we have here. Until next time, my friend, keep noticing the colors, the moments, and the nudges. They're all leading you home. And for now, take a breath, hold on to what resonated, and carry it with you into the rest of your day. Thanks for listening.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.